Are you looking to buy a waterfront in Edgewater, Maryland and have no clue where to start? Watch this video. I'm going to tell you 5 things that are going to help narrow your focus down. All right, what's up everybody? Like I said, today we're going to talk about finding waterfront in Edgewater, Maryland. I'm going to give you 5 ideas, 5 tips to really help you narrow down where you're looking and what to look for. But before we get started, my name is Rob Schou and I'm with EXP Realty in Southern Maryland. And if you're looking to buy waterfront on the western shore of Maryland, make sure you use that contact information below. Call me, text me, and I'd be happy to help you make that decision easier. I love waterfront. I live on the water. I was a charter boat captain before, and so this is stuff that I just love to help people with. If you want to, you can scroll down to the first comment, click on that link, and I'd be happy to have a one-on-one Zoom meeting with you about your waterfront home buying needs. And last but not least, if you find this content helpful, if you're looking to move to Southern Maryland, you want to learn more, or you just want general updates on the Southern Maryland and Maryland housing market, scroll down, click the subscribe button, click the bell so you're notified every single time we put out new content about moving to Southern Maryland. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The 5 things I'm going to talk about is where to look for waterfront in Edgewater. We're going to talk about the housing types you're going to find around Edgewater. We're going to talk about all the activities you can do in Edgewater from the water or that are water centered. And we're also going to talk about the regulations that surround waterfront in Edgewater, Anne Arundel County, Maryland, kind of all that encompassed. And then the last I'm going to talk about is the frequently asked questions that a lot of people ask me when they're looking to buy waterfront. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to look at the different areas you can find waterfront in Edgewater. And to start off, we're going to be looking at Google Maps. So you can see it up on my screen right now. All right, and so you can see it up on my screen right now. It's zooming into it right now. And if you look right here, this is Edgewater proper, this area right here. But I kind of want to show you that the Edgewater zip code actually goes all the way down to Mayo and Beverly Beach, Selby on the Bay, all these areas here. So when you're looking at waterfront listings, you're probably going to see these areas as well. So I'm going to kind of spin this around for us real quick. And just so we can see the different areas a little bit better. So kind of starting at the farthest east side here, this is the Chesapeake Bay, and most of Edgewater either is the Chesapeake Bay or the South River. I actually grew up right over here on the South River, right over here actually in Hillsmere. So I know this area of the river really well. And have been over to this area of Edgewater a bunch in my boat as a kid and as a young adult too. But you can see there's not much going on, of course, right here because this is the nature park. But for the most part, a lot of the development and a lot of the waterfront that you're going to be looking at, and we can zoom in here, you're going to be mostly looking at areas that are not on the Chesapeake Bay. So you can see here there's not a ton of piers on the Chesapeake Bay. There's a few in this area here. But you turn that corner and you start looking in these areas like Ramsey Lake and Selby Bay, you can just see how many different piers there are. Now there definitely is a correlation. The closer you're getting to the mainland, Annapolis, it does seem to go up in price a little bit for apples to apples houses. But there's tons of different options. You can look in Mayo, you can look in Brewer Creek. Glebe Bay is a big popular option. You can see all the piers and stuff there. You can see this is actually what they would consider, really this right here is what they consider, proper Edgewater town. And you can just see how populated it is and how many piers there are along the water. And there's different marinas. You can see that's a marina or a community there. So there's a lot of different options for either buying waterfront or maybe living in a community that has waterfront, similar to this place here. So there's so many different options. For me, some of my favorite areas when I was growing up here, I love being on Warehouse Creek and I love all the restaurants that were, over in this area of the South River. But as far as fishing and crabbing, I loved also being out towards the mouth of the South River for fishing and up some of these creeks for crabbing as well. So tons of good options there, but you just really need to kind of figure out what you want to do and what your price point is to really figure out what the best places to find that waterfront in Edgewater is. Now, I could probably spend, 20, 30 minutes going over each one of these creeks, and each one of these communities in here. But I think it's best for you just to, if you have questions about it or you want to talk more about specific areas, just reach out. Send me a text, give me a call, schedule that Zoom meeting, and we can go specifically. So if you're thinking, hey, I want to definitely be on Glebe Bay, I like how big it is, it's a good sailing area, yada, 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 then that's what we can focus on. But for the sake of this video, I just wanted everyone to kind of get an idea of what you're looking for with waterfront. There's actually a lot to choose from, and Glebe Bay goes back pretty far. There's a lot of different stuff to choose from. So you kind of want to get an idea of what you want and then narrow it down, and then we can kind of go from there. All right, so looking at this map still, so going back to it, you can see there is all different types of housing types. So number 2 is what kind of housing is around Edgewater. So Edgewater property, you're going to see Edgewater proper. You're going to see a bunch of different smaller houses. You can see some townhomes and things like that. They have opportunities for waterfront. The further you get away from Edgewater, there's more communities and single family homes, and even some bigger homes on bigger lots. Out in this area as well. So there's lots of different choices, but on a whole, it's going to be single family homes, detached dwellings that you're looking at Edgewater. That's the most prevalent if you're looking for waterfront. So just be prepared for that. That means it's going to come at a premium. A lot of times when it's a townhome or a condo that you're buying that's waterfront, some of that cost is deferred because you're sharing a dock with other people. But in Edgewater, for the most part, you're looking at that, primo single family detached dwelling that you're going to be paying a good penny for because it's a desirable thing. All right, so number 3 thing is, what is there to do around Edgewater? Now, going back to the map right here, if you look, I'm going to start at the base of the South River Bridge. There are restaurants all through this. There are restaurants upriver from the South River too, and there's just tons of different stuff to do up and down this river with restaurants, and even you can go out the South River and up and around, and you can go out into here. We'll zoom out so I'm not just dragging it the whole time, but if you go out the South River and up and around, you're going to be going right into downtown Annapolis. So if you're here, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump over to downtown Annapolis. And honestly, if you just want to do other things than sightseeing and you want to go fishing or something like that, you're not far from the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, where some of the best rock fishing in the bay is. Thomas Point Lighthouse is one that I frequented a lot as a kid. And then just some really nice, wide open, Eastern Shore areas and stuff like that you can get over to and kind of explore. So, Edgewater is really nice because, like I said, the property prices are great. There's tons of stuff to do there locally, but then also it's close enough to all these different areas that you can get away from Edgewater and go over to the Eastern Shore, go down to St. Michael's, go up to Annapolis. There's just so many options. It's a good centrally located waterfront area. So the number 4 thing I'm going to talk about are regulations of waterfront in Edgewater. Now, Edgewater itself doesn't have regulations that pertain to waterfront. The main waterfront and kind of any water-oriented areas, the regulations that pertain to them are Maryland-based. So the biggest one and the most encompassing one is the critical area. Now, the critical area is any property that's in 1,000 feet of a Chesapeake Bay tributary is governed by the critical area. It limits the amount of stuff you can remove or plant or take out, and what you can build and what you can't build. And so it can be a little bit overwhelming to figure out what you can and can't have on your property. And then it gets even a little bit more strict as you get to 100 feet within the water, and that's called a buffer zone. Now, buffer zone basically means you can't really touch much in there. If you don't have a pier yet, you can put a pier in the buffer zone, but there's a lot of exceptions, and there's a lot of stuff you can't do. If you have an existing lawn, you can maintain it, but you can't be taking out trees that are down there. You can't clear cut. You got to try to leave it as, natural as you possibly can, just so it buffers the bay from a lot of the different runoff and stuff like that might come if you decide to just take everything out. Now, that being said, and kind of going back to the pier idea, if there's not a pier on your property already, Maryland does allow you to have a pier on your property. Anne Arundel County is pretty lenient. When you're looking to build a pier, you got to worry about how your lateral or how your property lines go out to the water, and you have to be 15 feet off of each one of those property lines at the least to put your pier. So in Anne Arundel County, it's 15 feet. In other counties, it's 25 feet, like St. Mary's County where I live. So at a minimum, you're going to need about 35 to 40 feet of water frontage, at least depending on, you know, how your property lines go out into the water, to be able to put a pier on a property that doesn't have it. Now, if you already have a pier, you're able to replace that existing pier. But if you want to, expand that pier or put a boat lift, those lateral lines are going to come into play. So make sure when you're going to look at waterfront properties and you have these ideas of adding a pier or putting in a boat lift, you really understand the regulations so you're not caught flat-footed when you find out that, hey, I can't put this boat lift here, I can't do that, that the price that you're going in on that reflects that ability to not be able to do the things that you might want to do later on down the road. All right, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is the frequently asked questions. And the number one most asked question, bar none, is what about flood insurance? I cannot stress enough, before you go any further with a property, while you have that kind of inspection period in the contract, get a quote for flood insurance. Understand how much it's going to be and if it's going to break the budget that you've kind of set for yourself when you're looking at waterfront. Because definitely flood insurance can cost a lot, but it also can be a minimal monthly cost. So I always recommend reach out to your homeowner's insurance, give them the exact address of the home you're looking at, and get that quote. Do it, because I've seen deals blow up because of a flood insurance policy that just made it so they couldn't afford that payment. So I 100% think that's one of the biggest things you have to do when you're looking at waterfront homes. Another frequently asked question I get asked a lot is, what kind of boat should I get? There's so many different choices. The nice thing about Edgewater, there are protected creeks, and the South River can be pretty protected at times, depending on the wind direction and how much boat traffic there is. So really, you can choose almost any size boat. When I was a kid, I had a 12-foot rowboat in that area of the South River, and for the most part, didn't feel unsafe when I was in the creeks. But I've seen some huge boats go up and down there as well. So you can really get away with both. There's, enough water and, enough depth in a lot of the areas of South River that there's plenty of sailboats, there's plenty of big cruisers that you really can, pick whatever you want and whatever your family needs and whatever your budget fits, and be able to get out and enjoy the water. All right, so hopefully this information was helpful about waterfront in Edgewater, Maryland. If you have any questions or need any help, make sure you use the contact information below. Call me, text me, and I'd be happy to help you make some decisions about finding waterfront in Edgewater. Now, if you want, you can also scroll down to the first comment, click on that link, and it will schedule a Zoom meeting with me one-on-one, and we can talk about your home buying needs when you're moving to Southern Maryland and Edgewater. And last but not least, if you have not yet, make sure you click the subscribe button, click the little bell so you're notified every single time we put out new content about moving to Southern Maryland and buying waterfront in Maryland. Hope to see you on the next video.